welcome to a Medieval Combat video review. This one is a special request from Sir Nicolai of On Tier. He's on the right. This is tournament footage from Ursulmas 2018. It's a big tournament held up in the Pacific Northwest, and it's SCA combat. So the rules of SCA combat are a single hard blow to the head or body with the weapon wins the fight. A single hard blow to the arm or leg disables the use of that limb. The other thing is, in the SCA, you're invulnerable from the knees down and from the wrists to fingertips. So those areas are not targets. And then finally, there's very limited grappling or shield punching. Otherwise, you can check out the SCA rules. They're pretty well described online. These are two high-end fighters. Count Kjartan is on the left. Sir Nicolai is on the right. And let's give this fight a quick view. Just going to go back to the beginning here. I wanted to pick a nice dramatic frame to open up on because those guys look so cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the first pass at speed, and then I'll go through in slow motion and break down some of the mechanics. The very first thing I'm going to do, though, is let's take a look at their styles. Okay, so right off the bat, we can tell they're both right-handed shieldmen. There's a couple distinctions and a couple similarities. They're both fighting right foot forward. The advantage of fighting right foot forward as a right-hander is that it gives you extra weapon range. Your sword is that much closer to your opponent. That moves your right shoulder forward so you can throw some other mechanics with your arm already out in front of you. Changes some of your shot dynamics. The disadvantage to that is it brings your right leg forward as well, which is a bit of a target. It pulls your shield a little bit out of position, so that you're trading a little bit of defense for a little bit of offense and range. Both of these guys are comfortable walking around, but they're both going to be, throughout the fight, dropping into a weapon foot forward stance. Differences that we're seeing is that Sir Nicolai has an arm strap shield, or an arm-mounted heater shield it's called. Kjartan has a grip shield, or center boss round. So there are a couple trade-offs there. The arm strap shield, a little stronger. In the SCA, you can't really shield punch, so you lose that advantage of an arm strap. But it also covers the body a little bit more easily, and you want it to be a little less active a shield. Also the arm strap is a little less tiring compared to a center grip shield. The center mount shield, like the round shield that Count Kjartan has, you want to move it around a little bit more. It can be more tiring in the arm, but you can blind your opponent with it. It's a little bit more dynamic, but it's a little weaker. You can't do as many shield hooks and presses with it. Otherwise, they're fighting in a pretty similar style. The other thing we'll see is that Nicolai tends to fight with his sword in front of his face or head. In that case, you're actually getting more defense because your sword is doing a little bit of passive blocking for you. It's easier to defend with your sword. But you'll see that he needs to wind up to throw a lot of his shots by then pulling the sword back over his shoulder, or the center of gravity of the sword over his shoulder before he fires. It's a little slower offense in trade for a little bit of defense. Kjartan, you'll see his hand, his sword hand goes both in front or behind his head, depending on what he's looking for in the fight. So he is sort of changing stances with his sword hand a little bit more. So let's watch this first pass. Each other in at the same time, so it's a double kill, and they're going to have to refight. So let's go back through this fight. We'll go in slow motion, and then we'll sort of look at each little exchange. So let's take a look, and we're going to see right away how the style differences between these two fighters are expressed throughout the rest of the fight, just right here. So here we see a couple different things. First off, if you watch where Kjartan's hand is, he's doing a lot of hand pumps, hand feints. He's doing a bit of fancy sword work. If you watch Nicolai's sword, most of his blows are coming in a chopping motion, and there's no feints or fakes being thrown. That's not, neither of them is doing the right thing or the wrong thing, good thing, bad thing. There's just trade-offs to both. Another thing that you're going to see, Sir Nicolai tends to keep his weight pretty evenly balanced. He keeps his spine straight up and down, keeps his feet fairly planted and grounded. Kjartan, you're going to see leaving the ground a lot, leaning a lot more, At sometimes, especially in slow motion, it can seem like fighters end up very off balance, but they're using their forward, back, left, or right momentum, and they're leaning against it. But you'll see that Kjartan is moving around a lot more, getting into some more difficult situations, with the trade-off of being a little bit more dynamic and unpredictable. Again, no right, no wrong answer, but we're starting to see some of those style differences already. And let's take a look at Kjartan's opening shot. So I'm going to move forward very slowly. The hand comes forward. It's a pump. He does a circular motion with the tip. At this point now he's actually about to leave the ground, and he's trying to throw a very high snap over the top of Nicolai's shield. Nicolai is really, really good at reading his opponent, so despite the fact that's a pretty convincing fake, what Kjartan's hoping is the first pump is going to get Nicolai's shield to go up, and then when it doesn't land, Nicolai's shield's going to come down, and he's going to take the hit to the head. Nicolai is wise enough to leave his shield up the whole time, which is why Kjartan has to change the angle a whole bunch, and now it's bouncing off of Nicolai's sword, so the shot's not really coming in right. Kjartan has now left the ground because he's tried to get the extra height up and over that shield. So now they're bouncing off each other's swords, that's why it's not a good blow. Now, Kjartan's in a position where he's actually really quite close, but he's got a bit of a gap, and you can see he's using his shield all the way up here to sort of counterbalance his movement. He's got to move that shield quickly because his body's wide open. Basically, his only defense is the edge of that shield and his basket hilt of his sword sort of across his chest. So he's got to get a defense in pretty quick because Nicolai's got a great opportunity to drive the sword down into that gap. So Kjartan allows his motion to carry him forward, and here I don't know if it's accidental or on purpose, but it's cool. So now the shield that Kjartan had that was sort of open is moving this way to close that gap, and take a look at Kjartan's sword elbow. His sword elbow is now deep inside Nicolai's shield, and he's actually using it, intentionally or not, to yank Nicolai's shield open. This is one of the few times you see Nicolai's spine, that's a bit of an exaggeration, slightly off balance. For most of this fight, you see Nicolai pretty much straight up and down. You see Kjartan sort of all over the place. But here, Nicolai's been twisted, so he can't really throw the shot that he might like. He's here winding up. Kjartan's starting to drop this sword tip as defense while his shield is guarding his leg to the knee. Nicolai sees there's no shot there. Kjartan's followed Nicolai's sword blow up with his shield to continue defense. Now he's stepping back across. If we take a look, I'm going to try to draw on screen. Kjartan started here, went straight into Nicolai, stepped around this direction, and now is taking a diagonal step back this way, whereas Nicolai started facing this way and has just turned to face his opponent, right? So you can see the difference in philosophy, planting, and moving, and that sort of thing. So now Kjartan's moving that direction, trying to get a chop down the middle. We can't really see what happens here, unfortunately, but I think Nicolai's done the wise thing and just stepped out of range. Now, Kjartan's got his sword and his shield, his sword's protecting his right side, his shield's way up protecting his head. He's looking under his shield. That shield is not just up in the air like that to protect the top of his head, it's also so that he can see his opponent's body and what his opponent's doing, and he can see that Nicolai is backing out a little bit. So now they're out of range. There's that first pass. Nothing lands. All right, second pass, as you recall from earlier, there's a double kill here. So they step in, see Kjartan sword forward, sword back, sword forward, right? So Kjartan is a pretty active observer. I'll share with you guys, probably, maybe on this very field, Kjartan killed me at the last Ursulmas that I fought against him by watching my hand. And he was just looking at the hand here, and when he saw the hand sort of roll away, he knew that it was going to be an onside shot to the left side of his head. If my hand had rolled this way, he knew it was going to be an offside shot to the right side of his head. So as soon as I twitched my hand, he knew which side I was throwing to and threw into the opening I'd be creating, right? So he's, trying to get, if he's treating Sir Nicolai like he treated me, by moving backward and forward and changing his guard up, he's responding or trying to create a response in his opponent. They both have what is also a pretty on-tier style defense. We got that sword up protecting the face, relatively covering the slot. That protects against a fast offside shot to the head. Other kingdoms will tend to do something where, like, if it's going to be a little tricky to draw on screen here, but instead of having the heater here and sword there, what other kingdoms might do is a more open style, where the heater's here, and the sword's actually down in front there, and you're covering part of your face with the heater. So it's a very different sort of guard, really common in On Tier. It's actually sort of the guard that I use as well. But both of them, again, they've got their swords up for defense. It means they don't have a ton of offense until they get the sword moving first. Nicolai takes a step in, doesn't throw. A lot of newer fighters throw when they step. What he's trying to do is see what becomes open. Nicolai's also taking a step at a 45-degree angle to get a little bit around Kjartan, see if anything happens. Now here we see Kjartan pumping the hand out. I haven't memorized this, but I bet you that's a pump, and it's not actually his shot. Yep, it's a pump. So he pulls the sword forward. That pump creates a bit of a fake, and it also gives him the power to then whip around for a flat offside. Sir Nicolai's already moving his shield, and he's recognized as soon as his opponent throws an offside into that spot. Nicolai's read it very well, picks up the defense, opens the shield a little bit to actively get down the blade. So instead of leaving the shield up against his body for a passive defense, he's reached his shield out to intercept Kjartan's sword at the forte. And as soon as that happens, there's a big opening on this side of the body if he can get to it. Now the response that Kjartan's going to want to do is to raise the basket hilt maybe and get some defense in, throw his shield over, something. Now the other thing is, there's a chance that Kjartan's blow, if he gets enough angulation in it, gets around Nicolai's shield to hit him in the head. It doesn't, so now Kjartan's sword's coming up for defense, and that's why their weapons bind against each other. So that defends against the offside counter from Nicolai. And here we're seeing Nicolai again with a bit of a chopping motion. Kjartan tends to have a lot of like rotate one way, rotate the other way. But you can see the power in it. Kjartan probably allowed his shield to rotate a little bit to take the bounce out of Sir Nicolai's shot, because when you let someone's sword bounce, then they can use that bounce for a recovery. But you can also see it's really moved Kjartan a lot. The other thing you'll see with Kjartan as he fights, he tends to jump in, and as he does, he'll get a bend in the back, sort of like a belly forward style. So you see a lot of times when they close, they'll lean back. The lean back gives you a little bit of room to continue throwing your weapon because it's a little further away. But with your belly forward, you're trapping their shield. You're sort of messing with their space. You're able to keep your center of gravity close to your opponent while your head and arm are back a little ways. You see Kjartan do that a lot. So now they've got their shields up. Their own shields now are providing as much defense for their opponent as they are for themselves because they're quite close. Sir Nicolai's throwing for a leg shot. Kjartan now, you see him change his shot. He's probably looking, trying to see over the shield, but right now he's corked up for an offside. He wants that tip to go away from us, and nope, that's the wrong one. This is supposed to be the squiggly line. He wants the tip to go behind his back and into the head over there. It's a little tough to describe, but the goal is to hit this side, right? And as he gets that going, he's like, nope, the shield's coming down. Instead, he converts to an onside shot. At this point, we see, again, one of the few times that Nicolai's back is out of alignment with his feet. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just not common for his style. So Kjartan ends up throwing. He's got his basket up by the edge of the shield and gets the shot in over the top. But meanwhile, Nicolai's managed, it's kind of blurry on YouTube, but managed to counter chop right into the neck. So you see this diagonal chop that goes from, if you're Nicolai, the upper left to the lower right, almost like you're trying to cut diagonally through your opponent. It's all in the elbow, and the blade is traveling, but the entire blade is traveling sort of perpendicular to the rotation. So you see a lot of chops from Nicolai. This is the double kill we talked about. All right, so we went through those first couple passes in great detail. Let's see if the next ones merit the same thing. So we're going to watch the entire rest of the fight. I'll keep my mouth mostly shut, and then we'll see what happens. No contact, not enough to kill. And getting sword and shield blocks in. See, once again, one shield's quite static based on style, the other's quite dynamic. That leg lands because of the feint thrown beforehand. we see Kjartan stepping in belly first, takes the counter shot to the leg. Now notice Kjartan's movement on his legs, or on his knees, gets around and lands the wrap. Okay, so let's take a look at those passes and we'll break them down like we did the first ones. Okay. So now we're in slow motion moving forward. Again, pay attention to the difference in movement and difference in shot styles. So there's Kjartan with, again, that same shot we saw before. Go back and take a look at that. Pumps the hand forward, because from here he doesn't have a great offside. Pumps the hand forward. It looks like it's going to be a snap to the left side of the head, but really what he's trying to do is get the hand in position with power to throw an offside across the top of the shield, and he's hoping Nicolai is going to bite on that, but it turns out there's no real shot there. Nicolai is too smart. He knows what he's looking at. Gets down, and again, he's going to try to throw the counter offside. Kjartan, again, is going to try to defend. This time he defends with a shield instead of by raising his own sword. So we saw this exchange before. And again, Kjartan's jumped in, belly first, leaning back. We see Nicolai is leaned over at that angle to try to get that offside to land. At this point, a hard shot like the one that Nicolai threw might push most people back if they're jumping in, because Kjartan's gone a little bit Gumby. He just sort of sucks it up, lets the shield go loose, and continues his forward momentum. Now, this is really neat, and I don't know if this is accidental or not. It might be on purpose, and if so, it's wicked awesome. Take a look at the top of Sir Nicolai's shield. He's got it under Kjartan's round shield. Now, as he lifts his own shield, look at what he's doing to Kjartan's shield. He's lifting it way out of the way. Kjartan's wide open on the right side now. This is perhaps the best opportunity so far to trade. If Nicolai throws a hard shot into Kjartan's body at this point, it's going to, on the right side for Nicolai, on Kjartan's left side of his body, it's going to be very hard for Kjartan to defend that at this point without yanking his shield down. In return, if Sir Nicolai holds his heater up and keeps Kjartan's shield up, he might end up losing his own leg. You look at where Kjartan's sword is. Kjartan can bring the sword in to strike this leg, but he can't really get at the body, and meanwhile, he's gotten a kill shot on Kjartan's body. So it might be a good opportunity to trade there, but mind, they're coming in really fast. And you see Kjartan tries to throw the shield down. This is a case where maybe he got it down in time. It's really hard to tell because it's on the wrong side, but it looks to me as though Nicolai's sword is way ahead of Kjartan's shield, and if he lifts it up a bit above the belt, that's a kill shot. But it doesn't land. Difficult for us to tell in this video why. And Kjartan's going around the top with a sky wrap. That doesn't work. And here again, we see that position. The only reason why this isn't being effective for Kjartan right now is Nicolai has taken a step back. But once again, we see Kjartan in the belly first position, trying to control the center space. And here they back out. This is a spot where I think there's an opportunity to perhaps throw a parting shot. You might be able to tag the other guy in the face as you back out. They're like, no, we both have backwards momentum. We're going to continue on. All right. Moving forward, this is where Sir Nicolai is going to take it in the leg. Why does that happen? Watch his shield as Kjartan throws the first pump. See that pump? Right here. Watch Kjartan's hand pump, and then watch Nicolai's shield move. Pump, shield's up. Oh, I made it early. Sorry, I'm one exchange early. That is what you're going to see when it eventually hits Nicolai in the leg. Oops, spoilers, but we already saw it. Right? Now, in this case, it looks like Kjartan's probably dropped the shield. We can't really tell, but that's what defends against the leg. One other thing to note, notice Sir Nicolai is being really active with his shield in this case. He's got his shield way up and flat against the sword, so it provides very little bounce, and it's shutting down Kjartan's angles. All right, I think this is probably where we see what I was talking about. So watch Kjartan's hand and watch Nicolai's shield. See, the hand does this little pump right here. Pump. And Nicolai's shield's traveling up. Kjartan turns it into the low offside leg and is now bailing out after he's hit his opponent in the leg. Really cool technique. Very difficult to get that one fake into the offside leg with power into your opponent's far leg. but it's a cool shot. So let's take a look at it one more time, and we'll just look at it in slow motion. Pump shield up, and then chop to the leg, and he manages to land it with power despite the fact he's backing up, and it's a bit of a slash as opposed to a chopping motion. All right, so here, SCA rules again. Nicolai needs to fight from his knees from this point forward in the fight. Kjartan closes in with one of my favorite things to do against a legged fighter as well. So you'll notice that there hasn't been a lot of thrusting yet. And in this case, Kjartan throws a stab, and instead of trying to hit his opponent with the tip of his sword, what he's trying to do is flatten the shield a little bit and freeze the shield up. So he steps in, stabs for the shield below where the elbow is, right? So Nicolai's elbow's there, our arm is there, and his elbow's there. Kjartan's trying to table the shield by hitting the bottom half, so it pivots around the forearm, flipping the front edge of the shield this way, so that he can then jump in over the top and hit a snap. Now, Nicolai, really good shield defense, doesn't allow that to happen. Look at how high he brings his shield to protect against that and opens up. That's one of my favorite techniques against a kneeling fighter. Kjartan executes it very well. It's just that Sir Nicolai knows what to do. And he throws the counter. Now, that counter goes to the upper body, but now he's in a pretty good position. He's got a shield forward. Kjartan's sword and arm is in front of him. That shield's not all the way down guarding his leg. If he drops it much further, his head's wide open. So Nicolai, bam. Now, what Kjartan wants here is to have his basket and his blade protecting his leg. But Nicolai, looking under the edge of his own shield, has been able to get past that sword. So Kjartan's sword is not in the right position quite to defend against the angle that Nicolai threw, so it's a good leg shot. Now they both have to fight like this, and we've seen this. Now the other thing to pay attention, so far we haven't seen Nicolai move either of his knees. Also, his back has been pretty stable here, right? He's thrown with great power. You can tell that Nicolai's got really good arm strength and really good power. Almost all of his shots are coming from the arm. So far we haven't seen wraps, moulinets, stabs. It's been all chops, highly precise. They've already doubled once. They both traded legs. There's some different schools of thought on this. This is a tournament. It's a big one. In my opinion, you want to fight your A game in a tournament. So if that's the best blows and techniques that provide the highest likelihood of success, it's not my opinion that a minute into a fight you should start experimenting with other stuff unless you're practicing or doing it for fun or you know that what you're doing isn't working. What Nicolai's doing is working, so I'm not saying he should be throwing a bunch of different shot mechanics like snaps, moulinets, back blades, rotational shots, torques. Right now it's all been chops. We might have seen one wrap so far, and he's sticking with it. Kjartan we've seen do a lot of hand pumps, a lot of twists, a lot of moulinets, a lot of circular motions. We've also seen straight offsides, jabs, stabs, a lot more variety coming in, but with no greater success. So I think both of these guys are fighting with their best styles in this fight. However, one place where we're going to see this suffers, when SCA fighting, if you're standing and your opponent is kneeling, in the Kingdom of Ontir, you're not supposed to go around your opponent in range. So if Kjartan was standing right now, he's not supposed to go all the way around behind, throwing blow after blow after blow. You're allowed to take a step and throw one blow, and then you need to get out. However, when you're kneeling, if you're both kneeling, Kjartan's welcome to go around and around wherever he wants to go. And that's how this fight's going to end. So Nicolai has both of his knees planted, and Kjartan, we see, is willing to move around his opponent, and that's how this particular fight ends. So Kjartan, this first shot is just to tie up the sword. That's not a real blow. Once again, we see a hand motion forward. We see the start of some momentum. That's not really the threat. What's the threat comes after. Winds up. Here we see something very typical. That round shield moves up to cover this space here. And if you look at the shoulder and arm, they're torqued to throw an offside. And often, what a center grip fighter here will do is stay torqued in that position, waiting for the opening or changing the angle, looking for the opportunity. We even saw Kjartan start this way, and during the double kill, change to an onside snap because he's got a ton of power there, and the shield's providing pretty good protection. As long as the shield is here and his opponent's sword is there, that shield being forward is protecting against a lot of shots. The other thing to point out is in this position, Kjartan knows that he's got the edge of his opponent's shield there. If Nicolai was able to get his shield around behind Kjartan's round and hook it, oh, now there's this big juicy target here for Nicolai to throw into. But that's not the case, and Kjartan can feel it. He's even rotating the shield. If you were looking straight down on the field, he's rotating the shield clockwise and tabling it out to maintain a bit of sticky hand in that space and control the space. So there's the offside, and look at how far Kjartan's about to dip to throw that offside. He started with his head here. When he's done throwing this offside, his head is going to be, where do you think? Maybe there, right? So he throws that deep offside. It's a little tough to tell why it didn't land. It probably hit the sword on the way in. You can see the blade landed there. It probably wasn't hard because he was ducking, or maybe it even hit in the leg. It's pretty tough to tell, but he throws that really deep offside. And then meanwhile, if we look at the position of his head, oops, his head moves from here to here, right? The shield started here, then it goes here, and by the time he's done the blow, the shield's down there. So a ton of movement, and by moving the shield down there, he's made the space to get his hand where it needs to be to throw that offside. Now the counter blow from Sir Nicolai is blocked off the shield or sword. Kjartan is really down low. And here's the other sneaky thing. If we look at where Kjartan's knees are now, here's one, here's the other. He's actually taken what would be a full step forward and a full step to the right. So if we look at where he started a while ago, they're here and here. So all of this is masking a huge movement with the legs. And then watch where his right knee is going to go next, on the next blow. The camera's moving, I apologize. Let's see if I can adjust for that a little bit. No, not much I can do. But then, here we see a really good counter chop. Kjartan gets the sword up just in time to block with the basket hilt. But now we see him open up. There's potentially a shot if Sir Nicolai can hit him in the lower body. I'm going to move these knee positions out of the way because the camera's tracking, so I can't make those move with it. But you see how far to the side he is, and Sir Nicolai is still facing an opponent that was that way, right? He hasn't turned to face his opponent there. Now the first shot, again we see this. It's going to be an offside. No, I don't like it. The sword rotates around. Here it could still be an offside, but he's turned it into a wrap instead, right? So look at Kjartan's sword motions, really cool. I see Sir Helgi and Kaid do this a lot. The sword blade dips around here under the back and continues a rotation. And look at the way it looks like it has to stop there because the shoulder and elbow and wrist are in their terminal position. But watch, by turning the body and moving the hip forward, Kjartan still looks like he's going to throw an offside. The blade's now traveled to here, but he just slides it just past, rolls his wrist out, and turns what looks like a big offside into a wrap. Meanwhile, his knees moved a little bit further. The counter shot goes right into his shield. At this point, Sir Nicolai is totally blind. He's throwing across his entire body. Kjartan's body is basically in line here with Nicolai's shoulder. So Nicolai now needs to Nicolai needs to either rotate or throw all the way across and hit someone that's basically standing 180 degrees from his weapon. Kjartan's knee moves again, and he throws the deep wrap into the body. And at this point, Sir Nicolai already knows. It's done. He can't get the shield back. The only opportunity at this point is if he started moving his sword sooner and attempted like a hanging scorpion block. But he's got to move his knees, otherwise he's just toast. So, really, really good fights. I think both of them are extraordinary fighters, both better fighters than I. And there's a decent chance I missed a whole bunch of interesting things to notice. I probably got some things wrong. If, as you watch this fight, you came up with other observations, I would love to see it in the comments below. If you're enjoying these medieval combat video review fights, please let me know. I'll keep doing them. They're a little time consuming, but they are sort of fun. The other thing is I've been doing a lot of them by request. So if you've got fight footage, whether it's SCA, EMP, HEMA, WMA, IMCF, HMB, ACL, any other acronyms. Rapier. There's one that actually is a word. Anything like that, send it my way. I will do my best to review it. And if you got any comments or feedback, let me know. Otherwise, feel free to go ahead and subscribe, and the next time one of these videos comes up, you'll get told. Thanks very much to Sir Nicolai for requesting this video and making me feel better that Kjartan got me on the same field just a couple years earlier. Cheers.